How's it going, folks? My name's Matthew, aka EZBOT, and we're back with another live stream. Today we're going to talk about DAWLESS workflow and what does it mean and what do we do about it, essentially, and what have I done about it. I'm going to be talking from my own personal experience going from a computer musician, live recording musician, to a computer musician, to a DAWLESS musician, and then everything in between, which is what I currently am now. Everything ends up in my computer. So definitely using DAWLESS as a kind of a catch-all for just gear outside of my computer. And I have a lot of thoughts on this. I've spent a lot of time working on the perfect workflow. That's probably my favorite part about hardware electronic music is developing a workflow. This is something that I think about all day long, and I'm always looking for new, inspiring units to make that workflow go faster, smoother, and feel more creative and intuitive. And I feel like I'm at a place right now that I'm at the best place that I've ever been, creatively and intuitively for my personal workflow. It's something I'm very proud of, and I do want to share my experience today and some of the stuff that I have on the table and why I've chosen them. And I want this to be a discussion. This isn't meant to be like just a jam sesh for 2 hours. I want to talk with the chat if chat is up for discussing this. But before we move forward on this discussion and start talking about all the gear and all sorts of cool announcements that I have coming up right now, I want to mention this stream is sponsored by DistroKid. We love DistroKid. Thank you for sponsoring these streams. DistroKid is an online music distribution platform that can get your music out to all devices and all streaming platforms, as well as make you some money. It can actually make you a couple bucks, and I'll show you that today, later on the stream, how I've made a couple bucks on DistroKid, enough to buy myself some VSTs or some sample packs, something like that, so not bad. Now that we've acknowledged our overlord, let's acknowledge the people who we want to become our overlords, which is LaCroix. Coconut. It's definitely my favorite. All right, scoot over, Deluge. Okay, let's talk about gear. Let's talk about gear for a sec. First, let's take a look at what we have on this table. I got my camera like completely zoomed out right now, so we're looking down at the Octatrack Mark II, which I use as a performance mixer. The Key Largo, which I underuse, I think, but kind of I use it for what it needs to be done. This is a kind of a utility mixer device that has ground lift, which you'll hear if I turn the ground lift off. Have a listen to that. That's what this thing is saving me from, because there's so many electronics here. We have ground loops happening underneath the table. With the way things are plugged in, there's just, this isn't a custom studio. This is an apartment, and I have a lot of gear in here. So without stuff like ground lifts and ground loop isolators, I find myself running into all sorts of noise. This device helps me with that. What else is great about it is that it also acts as a DI box. So it's a triple stereo mixer with USB audio and a DI box with XLR outs and unbalanced monitor outs with sends for the channels. Pretty useful, I must say. Pretty useful. It's doing a job for me. So right now, what I have going on is I have the Digitakt II, which is my main sampler. This is my main music production device. And then I have another main music production device, which is my M8 tracker. And I like to get really familiar with devices and get really familiar with workflows and start building my studio around my centerpieces. So this is my centerpiece. This is my centerpiece. This is a centerpiece that I'm still getting I'm getting familiar with again. And then this is what's going to send audio from different devices in my studio. So I also have the Melbourne Delia over here. This is a fantastic synthesizer with a ladder filter. It's running into an analog heat plus effects in the back just for some extra effects and some grit when I need it. It's a great sounding synth. I love it. Really fun for sound design. And then over here we have this vocal suite and guitar suite, and I have a microphone set up that I can just sing and play guitar right into this, and all of this runs back into my key Largo, which goes into my Digitakt II. Or I use a send, because I have the send set up, to go into my mate. So if I want, I can sample this synth, my vocals, and my guitar from this very quick to use suite. That guitar vocal suite lets me just sit at my, just like scoot over, grab a guitar, sing into the microphone. It's got every vocal effect I could ever need. It's got every amp simulator I could ever need and every pedal in any configuration, so I don't need to buy a bunch of pedals and set that up and deal with all the cabling and all of that. It's just there. It sounds fantastic, and I can sample it right into my Digitakt, or I can sing and play along with the stuff I've written in my Digitakt. The amount of inspiration I've already found from this is incredible. I'm at this stage right now where I'm kind of overwhelmed with the how fluid this setup is with the possibilities that I've now created. It's almost like I've gone into this paradox where it's like, stay away from the computer because there's so much scope creep, and now I've created scope creep outside of my computer by creating such a fantastically seamless workflow. But each one of these devices has a limitation. And so what my workflow is, and why this investing in this gear and finding the right stuff for me and kind of like biting the bullet in certain situations has worked out so well for me, I believe, is because I have a clear goal. My goal is to take my guitar and the ability to play guitar, that I've been playing guitar for a long time, and take being able to sing, and so I have my microphone, and be able to sample that into a sampler. Samplers are my favorite part of my DAWLESS experience, or my music production outside of my computer. And now I have a fantastic polysynth that actually fits on my desk, unlike my Prophet 5. But this synth can sound just like a Moog grandmother too. So I've eliminated a bunch of synthesizers. Because of the lovely ladder filter in here and the wavetables, I can get all the grit that I need for a nice oscillator and then have it sound just like a grandmother. See if I could even just go into a bass patch and just show you what I mean by that. Let's see. We'll just load one up and... This thing has, that ladder filter is so sweet on this synth. I mean, see, there's another one that really, really... I can't tell you how pleased I am with the bass sounds that I'm getting from my polysynth. That's like, often to me, there's this trade-off, like when you buy a synthesizer. The trade-off usually is like, you get a great polysynth, but you know, maybe it's kind of lacking in the bass zone. Or it doesn't have good effects. Or, you know, there's just, rarely does it have exactly what you need, but I found a synth that fits me perfectly. And that's this synthesizer, the Melbourne Delia. It has digital oscillators, virtual analog oscillators, with a wavetable, so endless possibilities. You know, that's how Serum functions, wavetables, and runs into an analog ladder filter. Digital oscillators, analog filters, perfect combo. It's like the synthesizers of the future. But not just that, it has multiple types of reverbs and delays. We're talking beautiful shimmering reverbs, actual reverb shimmer in a box, as well as the encoders jumping with the drone motors. That part doesn't even matter as much as the sound of the device, but it's doing something for me. I took the time to try a lot of different synthesizers, you know, and this is kind of like part of the conversation is there's a lot of memes about being a DAWLESS music producer. There's just a massive amount of them, right? It's like, it's kind of a joke almost to like, hey, look at this guy in his giant studio and he has all of this gear and he's not doing anything with it. And it's like, people will say the more gear you have, the less music you make. And you know, sometimes that's true. Sometimes. Is it always true? It's definitely not always true. Look at Martin Gore from Depeche Mode. Like, 1 billion albums, more gear than anyone in the world. Look at Vangelis. More gear than anyone ever. So it's not necessarily true. I think it's kind of BS. But I do think there's something really cool about finding some very specific items and surrounding yourself with them because they do just what you want. Having the guitar set up with the vocals, having the polysynth that can also do great analog sounding bass lines and just beautiful, beautiful Boards of Canada type drifty, droney pads, and just, it's got the whole thing in it. It works really well. On top of that, finally having a use for my analog heat plus effects, giving it grit, giving it distortion, and then running it all into my octatrack for performance effects into the best, most fun sampler that's out right now, the Digitakt II. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is the best sampler for me. There's just not a better sampler for me out there. Now there's other great samplers that can contend with the Digitakt II in terms of sampling and sampling ability, for sure. An MPC Live 2 with the 3.0 software, stem separation, come on, like that's amazing. I'm not an MPC user, that's not my thing, but I do recognize that ability. For me, everything has to do with drawing your sounds into a sampler and then chopping that sample up and arranging it here. But it has to have the tactility to make me want to touch it. It has to have the aesthetic to make me want to look at it, the device itself. We're talking about the art involved in crafting the device. And then it has to have a workflow that speaks to me. And the Electron workflow, as you know, if you're on this channel, speaks to me quite strongly. I love the Electron workflow. It's very akin to trackers, which we've mentioned 1,000 times here, which is also why I love working on stuff like the M8 tracker, another great workflow. So what I'm doing and how I've built this setup, and this has taken me years and a god-awful amount of money that I've spent finding this gear, and I'm in this process where I'm like, do I purge or not? Do I purge some of my gear just because it's taking up space, not because I don't love it? It's just, I want more space. Because I've found the pieces that work. And so at this moment, I have main setups, basically. This, I kind of DJ between these two instruments. And so my DAWLESS workflow is, when I want to play the tracker, I go to a blank track on my Digitakt II. We bring some music from the tracker. And I got great sounds coming into them. So my octatrack right now is this conduit for fun, basically. I write like really intricate patterns where I've sampled from the cool devices that are covering so much territory into my groove boxes. This is kind of a groove box channel, I would say. It's not just all about Electron. It's about groove boxes. It's about these devices that engineers and musicians have made for fun, for having fun making music. And I like to build my whole workflow around those groove boxes. And I've picked two right now that I think are the most fun to me. And we can discuss that a little bit. I'm going to check in with the chat now after I've had my long monologue about what's going on in the studio, what's the setup, and how does it all work. And I think I covered that pretty well. I do believe I can get all the work I could ever need to get done with what I have currently. I am not missing any elements anymore. I can bring in live instruments, live vocals, polysynths, analog synths, live effects, sampling, and lots of fun workflow. And it's actually not that many pieces of kit, if I'm being honest. We have one here, two for the poly and the mono synth. This does both poly and mono work. 3 for the live mixing and effects. 4 for performance. And 5 for a mixer. We kind of count these as one because they're taking turns. So it's about 5 pieces to make music that sounds awesome, I think. I love my tracker tunes, and I love doing stuff to him. And if I switch over to the Digitakt, turn this down, and now we're in Digitakt land. This principle of like less is more situation, I've done it. I feel like I've achieved it. The goal has been achieved. I have less and it does equal more. I can get more work done and I'm more inspired to make music. I think that I'm an obsessed person and I'm very obsessive about the gear that I own, how they work together, of course the sound that they make, but I'm very obsessed with like the combinations, like putting different combos together. I like playing Tetris with my music gear to see what's going to create the best sounding track or the best sounding, create the best workflow, the fastest workflow. And a lot of people have different ideas on what that workflow is. Sometimes it means a very large rack unit and a patch bay and patching things up and going to their computer and routing things around and having a wall of synthesizers. And man, if I had the space for a wall of synthesizers, don't you know it would be here? It would. It really would, because why not, of course. But I also want something right here. If I'm sitting at my sampler and I want my synthesizer sounds, I want them right here. You know what I mean? I want it right here. Richard Braun, yes, workflow. I legit have become a better musician by limiting my workflow. And yes, exactly. And so I had this discussion. Let's go back over here to looking at the Headrush Core and the Delia. And I know my camera's a little dark over here. I need to adjust the ISO on this camera. I almost nailed everything, but I'm not perfect, I guess. Yes. Wow. That's awful. I'm definitely not. So I may have mentioned this on last week's stream, because I did bring this up because I've had this for about a week now. And I got it right before last week's stream. This discussion that I was having with the Guitar Center employee as I was asking about its tone. And the Guitar Center employee... Whoa. The Guitar Center employee and me. Here we go. This is an easy review. We got some synthesis on the corner here, and all the views. So the Guitar Center employee is telling me, you know, he thought that it didn't have a tone that he wanted, but he was like, I'm a very natural sounding guitar player. And to me, I didn't care. I was like, I'm a guitar player and I love tone. Don't get me wrong, but my life isn't tone. My life is creating. My life is creating. If I don't have a way to create, then who gives a crap about tone? It's not important if I can't even start making music. If I can't even get myself to sit down with my guitar, what's the point in a Fender Princeton reverb and a SM57 hanging over the top of it? It doesn't matter because it doesn't get used. So I picked something up that I could use. Instantaneously, I'm able to make music. I can just hit a button and sing into a microphone, and it has every vocal suite that I need already set up and ready to go. I don't have to go to my computer and turn it on. I don't have to load up an effects rack at the computer. I can stay doing my DAWLESS thing that I love to do, this like, you know, kind of spaceship vibe, I guess, whatever. People love that analogy. But it's really fast, and these machines themselves have their own workflows, but they're all very intuitive, and I found these pieces. There's like, in like RPG games, a lot of RPG games, even in like Diablo 4, for instance, as an analogy, because a lot of people are probably playing Diablo right now. But in like RPGs, you find certain pieces of gear, and they have synergy with other pieces of gear. Just natural synergy. They cause an effect to be amplified in some way, and it triggers another effect. That is what happens when you invest in your DAWLESS workflow. Once you find certain pieces that have the synergy that you're after, it generates better music or faster music. The only issue is, can you stop searching? Do you know when you're at the end of the road? And you're never really at the end, you know, I think. And I think that's, you know, part of the fun is that there's always gonna be something new introduced to you, or a new idea, or you learn a new instrument or a new concept, and then you have to redefine your workflow. But to me, workflow kind of goes like this. I sit down with my sampler and I need to have something to start my music. I need to have an idea. So I may go to the synthesizer and start playing on it. I'll find a preset that inspires me. Actually, I renamed one of the banks in this, which is frustrating. Let's go bank, keys, enter, keys, enter, load. Maybe I'll just find a chord, like this D major 7. And I'll just take that chord and I'll sample it into my sampler. Usually a Digitakt II. Could be a Deluge, could be an M8, could be a Digitakt II, could be an MPC Live if it's you. And from there, I know I have a couple of options. I can chop that chord up, I can reverse that chord, I can transpose that chord, I can modulate that chord. I can put it into my sequence. And this is usually the beginning of starting a track. This is typically my workflow. And if it's not that, it might be a strum of the guitar in some aspects. Not as much lately, but it will become that again. Or it might be me just saying a line or singing something in my vocals. I bring that into my sampler and I start busting it up. And this requires me to have gear that I actually like and set up in a way where everything communicates. So something really useful for your workflow that you can't see because it's under the table is a MIDI hub. I use an MRCC, that's the MIDI hub that I like. I have the large MRCC, I kind of wish I had the smaller one, but there's lots of them out there, lots of great MIDI hubs that I think would be an awesome pick for you. Check out MRCC, that's the one I use, but I think Blocus MIDI hub, and there's another one that's like a little block, it's got little buttons on it. I thought that one looked really attractive. But we have to bring everything together and have things that communicate to each other. One of the reasons why I love both of these devices is because you can do some really cool stuff in terms of workflow. So here's a workflow example. Here's something that the Digitakt II has, and we hope to God comes in the Syntakt II or Syntakt update that we all know is coming, right? Cuckoo hooked it up by telling us that, is that we can page loop, right? So when I'm in my step editor and I hold page, I can loop segments of the audio to work on something. Like say I want to go to page 4, I can loop this page. This is a workflow thing. Your device allowing you to do this, important. Very important. So if the Syntakt has that, dope. We know this has that. So we can highlight sections and work on little moments. In fact, in this, it gets even more detailed. The workflow in this lets you get all the way down to a single step and loop that across every single track, whereas this lets you loop a bar in this machine. The only issue with the page looping is that if your other devices don't also have page loop, they will play freely, which is part of the reason why I eliminated another device from my setup. It's just like, this is a pain because I can't page loop my Syntakt. And I was like, maybe I'll bring Syntakt back when it has some of the features that I now consider essential in my workflow. We'll see. Hopefully it gets that, but that's what I want to see. I want to see page loop on the Syntakt. And if we do end up getting a Digitone II, and I'm assuming that's coming at some point, hopefully this year, God, I hope so, because that's probably the instrument I'd be the most excited about. I don't even know what a Toneverk is, and I don't care. I'm more interested in getting another FM synth in my life. FM synths to me are just complex oscillator synthesizers, especially once they've added filters to it. That's really all it is. It's kind of like wavetable and FM. They're both gold mines for making sounds if you have a filter to go after them, you know, even without the filter, but yeah, having a filter. So I love that page loop workflow. Another thing that I really like about the workflow of these devices, including the Deluge, this comes into play here. We love Deluge, beautiful, fun, exciting, gets you interested in it, is that you can resample your production and then instantly chop it up with like an auto chop feature. The M8 has an auto chop where it can take a sample, a long sample, and chop it up perfectly. The M8 also can detect slices, and that makes it really simple. That makes your workflow fast, super fast, even though OP1 has good chopping on it. This thing's actually pretty sick for chopping. The Digitakt wants you to chop in, quantized grooves. There's ways you can go around this by just slicing it and then pasting the slices in different parts of your sequence and then resampling into the right parts, and then you'll get that perfect chop. But I think that's great. That's an absolute goldmine for your production. Like having your production be quick is being able to use slices. It creates an opportunity for you to modulate sounds, like what sound gets played on a per step basis. And that's not something you can do without modulating the slots, which is pretty random. So when you can modulate the slice and those sounds are in a slice, it's much more usable. But anyway, that's like a whole tutorial in itself. I didn't really care to talk about that. But I like that it can do that. It's a part of the workflow that I really like. Another thing that I really like in workflow with these devices that I have currently out on the table, these groove boxes, is that all of them allow me to put note data in in a keyboard, except for this one. It doesn't have the keyboard, but it has a scale mode. They all have these scale modes for us, which I find incredibly useful. Every one of these devices, except for this one, doesn't really count, has a scaled device. And that's part of my workflow, is that I don't just sit in the scale, but I like to use the scale to maybe quickly get something. That's the speed of having scaled modes, is that you can quickly get a sound going that sounds like useful. As long as you play with the scales, you don't sit in the same scale all the time. That can be a little boring. But get something useful, and then you could start programming in the accidentals, which means outside of your scale. And without accidentals, music sounds bland and boring. So it's really useful to program outside of the scale. But they all have scale modes. And something else I really like in my workflow is when we have threshold or quantized recording. The octatrack has quantized recording. Digitakt II has quantized recording. M8 has threshold recording. I forget if it has quantized recording. And so does the Deluge. Something I hope the Deluge adds in the community firmware is threshold recording. It's one of the coolest features on the Digitakt II and on the M8. It'd be cool if they added it to our octatrack. So, more workflow discussion. Another part of workflow that I really like that starts integrating the computer into this aspect, and hopefully we get our Overbridge update in the next week or two, maybe it's the end of this month, is the end stage of our DAWLESS experience here. We don't just DAWLESS. Nobody just does DAWLESS. That's whack. It's a lie. It's fake news. We always end up at the computer. In fact, we're always using our digital audio converters anyway, just to hear our sounds, right? And these are all little computers. So let's forget the idea that DAWless means no DAW. It just means that we're doing our production on hardware, eventually going to the DAW. Everything goes to the DAW in the end. And that is something that I would never, ever want to change. I don't want a device to pretend to be my DAW. I want my DAW. I want my computer. I want all my VSTs. I want my ozone. I want my scalers. I want my limiters that I've got, my SSL limiter. I want all of this stuff that makes things sound the way I like them to sound in the workflow that's so quick to use for me. Everything needs to go to the computer. So one of the cool things that we have with these devices in this kind of workflow is I can, especially with Digitakt II, is that the sound quality that I'm able to get from all these units into a Digitakt, now that we have stereo and 4824, once Overbridge comes, I can multi-track into my computer and do the real work of putting it into a song, an actual song format, maybe even adding vocals and doing all of that right in my computer. That's something that I can't do with my Digitakt II today, but I will be able to soon. But it is something that I can do right now with an M8 tracker. It has stem export. This is a part of the workflow. Devices that have this kind of feature, I can export the stems of my projects, and I do have fully finished, completed songs in this machine, because this is a device that has helped me finish my music. It gets done here. Stem export. In the Deluge, we have stem export. We don't have multi-track audio as far as I understand, but we do have stem export, and that's a huge deal. So I can make a project that sounds about as amazing as it would in my computer. Like, I have the sound quality of sampling into my computer now. I have synthesizers, and there's no reason that it doesn't sound as good as my computer at this point. So I'm like, there's no computer's better because it sounds better. That's not real anymore. This, to me, sounds as good, if not better, because I got analog synthesizers going on. Delia's it's digital with an analog filter. Same thing, though. That filter, that does the trick. That's where the physics come in. Think of it, digital oscillators, zeros and ones, squares. Analog oscillator, we're cutting off all the edges of those squares. We're just making everything nice and smooth. That's what an analog oscillator does to your digital sounds. No longer digital sounding, right? That digital tint of sound. So we have that, and then once we be able to do the stem export, bring it over to our computer and do the thing the computer does well, which is arrangement. That's what a computer does. That's what the computer is for me, is arrangement. When I want to record guitar, I just sit at the computer, I run, the metronome, I play my guitar, and I sing. That's what I do with the computer. Like, that's the workflow for me. And then that's the best workflow for the computer, in my opinion. I'm like, what's better than that? Metronome, record, play and sing. Easy peasy. So that workflow I wanted to bring here, and I feel like I did. It's finally there. What it took was a machine that integrated vocals, a vocal suite. So I'm not buying vocoders anymore. It's a huge deal, because we all want vocals. Having vocals in your music is a really big deal, right? In my opinion, it's a really big deal. At all the shows that I play, the people who don't have vocals in their tracks are less memorable than the people who have vocals in their tracks. It's just natural. It's just true. So I have a device that can change my voice, into, go from like a masculine to feminine sound, and it can air in everything in between, and then it can harmonize my voice and change it into a robot sound or whatever I want. I have all the tools with a press of a single button instantaneously, right into my sampler, or right into my M8 tracker, or right into my Deluge. This workflow is seamless and simple. I sit at the desk and I just do the thing. And this took me years. I worked at a synth shop for 5 years, making videos on different workflows, but videos on gear and discussing their purpose at, why would you buy this synthesizer that has all of this modularity? Why would you buy it? It has all these CV ins and outs. Why are you going to buy this module? What's it going to do for you? We have to come up with these examples. We have to have a reason, an idea to buy a piece of gear, not just because it looks cool. A demo can sell you something, but like, are you going to make the same music in that demo? I mean, the point I'm getting at is I've spent so much time learning so many different pieces of gear, trying to find something that fits me, and kind of all along, it was just like going back to the roots, which is just sampling. Sampling has always been my favorite aspect. It's just sampling myself and having access to instrumentation in that way. But it all has to be very fluid and simple. So this is my long conversation about this. I'm now going to say what's up to the chat because I've just gone ham on workflow. I want to see what other people's doing with their workflow. What are their thoughts on what I just said? And drink some LaCroix. While that's happening, we'll let this track play quietly. How's it going, everybody? I'm just scrolling up the chat. Steric Subjects, how's it going? Calderwood, Cracks Bubbly, yes. Snog, how's it going? Levi, James, Lemonade Maker, Circo, what's up, dude? What up, Blakes? Jeff. Oh, there's just too many people to say what's up to. All right, I'm looking for conversation about workflow. All right. JPO Joe. Are you going to do another vid on the SH4D? You know, I want to have the music play, but for whatever reason, I'm so distracted by music, I can't actually talk to the chat and play music at the same time. My brain's broken. Would I do a video on the SH4D? I do have experience with the SH4D. I did do a demonstration video for Patchwork's synth shop in Seattle, which is still alive. You just have to purchase only online. But I don't, you know, I kind of like the idea of having the SH4D as a sound source just to get all the roll-in sounds, but I don't know. I think I really want to just stick to like 2 or 3 boxes, you know, and another groove box. I don't know about that. It is a cool one though. You should explain how you transitioned between the 2 machines, because I would like to know. Would you? I'll never tell. No, I will. I will explain that. I do want to talk about, I do have some news. So while we're chilling here chatting, I want to mention that HyperFX template 1.0, which I completely remade. So if you're on my Patreon and you've been using the HyperFX template, especially for like drum and bass and lo-fi, because that's what it excels at, you're using a version of it that I've completely remade. In fact, none of the effects that are in that version are in this new one. I've completely remade it, and it's going to be released tonight. So tonight, later this evening, HyperFX template 1.0 will launch on coffee.com and also on the Patreon. So you can buy it if you want, if you're not interested in joining the Patreon. It is absolutely dope, and I'm very, very proud of it. I think it's really great, and it'll be awesome for you at live shows. It's great for transitions, but it's also very playable. So very cool news. I just wanted you to know. And second cool news is that there's some live shows coming up. We got some dope shows coming up. Check this out. We got Sad Boys, Kid Camaro, Mikey 303, and Kapala playing the Modbang show in Portland, with Casual Decay doing ambient in between the sets, and Brother vs. Robot doing the visuals. I'm wearing a Brother vs. Robot shirt right now. And then October 29th, Modbang in Seattle, which is a free show. We have Planar Drift, Hane, Nilk, and Changing Bodies at the 4Bs. Completely free show. Come on down and check it out. So good times. If you're in Portland or Seattle, we got shows coming your way. I love that I get to do this. I get to be a show ambassador. You know, I'm trying to help people get into music production and in any way that I can. I love this stuff. I love the gear. I love having conversations about it. And these Modbang shows are the coolest. I've met so many great musicians. I've learned so much through all these shows, and I'm so grateful to have, there's an audience. We're generating an audience for people. That's part of my workflow. Yeah, so here's a little bit the tip back on workflow for me. I need to have deadlines, big time. Without a deadline, I don't really get anything done. And so I'm starting to give myself, I decided to take a break from playing shows for a little bit, and maybe even until 2025. But I realized as soon as I said that and I stopped putting myself on deadlines, my music production slowed down a little bit compared to how hard I would go. Like when I had a show coming up, I would be like, I'm writing a new song tonight. I'm finishing it. We're talking like 8 hours, head down, making tunes. When I don't have shows coming up, it's a much more leisurely experience going through the music production. I'm over here, I'm taking the time to learn this. I got manuals pulled up. I'm like diving deep in machines when I don't have shows coming up. When I got shows coming up, I don't care about that. I'm not like, how does this work? I'm like, does it make a sound? Let's get some sounds. I need to make this thing happen. So it's like 2 different environments, but I think that having a deadline is a big deal. a really big deal. And if you're interested in getting a deadline, you can email mod@modbang.com and I'll set you up to play a show. Or Blake's, who's in the chat, Blake's, BLAIX, @modbang.com if you're interested in playing the Portland show. And we'll get you playing some shows, which is a really good time. While I also have you here, let's quickly acknowledge our sponsor. Our sponsor is DistroKid, and they've done a great job taking care of this channel that y'all are hanging out watching right now. So let me jump over to it really quick. This only takes a moment, trust me. So really quick, DistroKid. Yeah, I use DistroKid. And this is what we use for our compilations, and we do need to do another compilation in the EZBOT Discord. And today I want to show you how you can create these promo cards with your music. So once you have music uploaded onto DistroKid, and like here's this like stats and stuff. It's really cool to see your stats. Like, oh, look at more plays happened in April and beginning of October or mid-October. We're a little low on the plays this month. But if we want to promote ourselves, maybe we need to do a little promotion. These promo cards are pretty cool. So I choose a release. Let's do like Beat Blitz. That's the last one that was done. And we can generate a promo card. And look at this. Some of these are really great looking. Like this one actually fits the aesthetic really well. And it's just generated all these different promo cards. And these promo cards, you can add links to them or text them to people. Or, you know, download them. Pretty sick, pretty useful to do. So I love this, and this is what I like about DistroKid is it lets you do things like this. And these look professional. Like, look at this one. That's sick. That's actually perfect because ours looks like a PlayStation thing. This is amazing right here. I love that. Okay, so that's it. DistroKid, online music distribution service, plus also helps you promote your music. It's pretty dope. Not gonna lie, it's pretty dope. So since I was talking about workflow so much, let's talk about the middle part. So there's the writing aspect of your workflow, which is what I was really going ham on at first. I was like, we got the right devices, we can get the right sounds we need very quickly. We don't have to work for them. You know, we got all the tools to make it so we don't have to work for the sounds. Vocals, we got guitars, we got basses, we got polysynth, we got analog sounds, we got digital sounds, all of it happening in just a few devices. But there's this middle aspect, the performance aspect of workflow. That's where the octatrack comes in. This is my specialty comes in. The octatrack is the middle part of your workflow. This is like, because after octatrack is record and arrange. So the record and arrange thing is kind of like, this is this middle thing. I don't even know where to put it because it's like you don't do this and record and arrange, or maybe you do sometimes, but it's this middle part. This is the inspiring device. And so what I have in here is the new Hyper Effects template, and I'm very excited to release it tonight. Worked super hard on it. I'm saying super again, that's gone back, it's back in my vocabulary. And it sounds awesome. It has 4 parts. Hyper, Corpo, Zone, and Dream. And Dream is unfinished. As you can see, there's 2 effects missing. I know what these 2 effects are, so I've already designed them. I just haven't done it. And maybe I'll even do that with you so you can see how I build these effects. And then 2 filters left for me to design. And as soon as I put these 2 effects and 2 filters in, Hyper Effects Template 1.0 will go out, and hopefully we'll start hearing it at people's live shows because it's super sick. Check it out. Blake said, how do we transition? That's one of the tools this has. Hit the yes button. It's gonna automatically record a 4-bar loop. There it goes. When this 4-bar loop is recorded, we need to change the tempo. Switch to the scene. So now we're in a recording, and it's just gonna loop this segment. Just these 4 bars. It's being played on the Digitakt, and we're gonna switch over to the M8. So now I'm gonna stop the Digitakt or go to a blank pattern that has no music on it and bring the tempo, well, I think it's playing at the right tempo. This song is 170. If we wanted to change the tempo, we would just bring the tempo down. But now I'm on a pattern that has no music on it, so I can bring this in. If I want, I can just glitch myself right over. So we try it again. So here we are back in the loop. And if I want, I just can bring the tempo down. Could even go to a different track on here. I think it's 150 for this song. Sure, it's getting MIDI in. Okay. Glitch, auto glitch. This is one of my favorites. So it's auto glitching and a phaser. So this is the middle part of workflow. That's kind of the best way I can think of it is you have to have something that's inspiring you to play with your gear too. So it's like you write a track on your Digitakt, you write a track on your M8, you write a track on your Deluge. Deluge has performance effects, but they're not anything to brag about. They're okay, but nothing special. M8 doesn't have performance effects at all. It has a DJ filter you can play with by putting your finger or a whatever. It's not, it sounds good, but it's like, it's not built for that. Digitakt kind of has some performance effects. You have some control all routing that you can do, and you can do, you know, kit mode and then this and hold track all and affect everything all at once. It does an okay job. It probably does the best job of the three, I think, even though this has dedicated performance effects, but nothing beats this. This just tops them all. And I made all these effects from scratch. Like, this entire thing is just of my own design. You know what I mean? Like, no one made this. No one else made this. And I can do that anytime I want. I can make another version of another idea. Once you understand the building blocks of effects, sampling, gain staging, filters and EQs, modulation sources, triggering the phase of an LFO, retriggering the phase of an LFO versus a free running LFO, what a sample and hold does, and how to adjust different values over time. That's a lot to talk about, a lot to say. I'm squeezing it into one little thing. But once you gather all of that, and a lot of computer producers have, because I swear to God, the guys making music, you know, guys, gals, and in between, everything on the making music in Ableton with Serum and the music that's being made there, they know synthesis, like expert know synthesis. A lot of these folks, they're really, really in tune. They know what the fundamental is. They know what overtones are. They know how to do mid-side split, which is what this part of these effects has mid-side split. That's why some of them sound so huge, is because I'm doing mid-side split effects. I'm taking advantage of phasers that are cutting through the middle while doing mid-side split. Stuff like that takes a long time to wrap your head around. Those tools exist in the octatrack in a way that they don't exist on any other box. I don't even think like an MPC3 has this functionality. You can't build this in an MPC3. You can't build it. Somebody could design it on a Deluge, but you can't do it. And then we have the intuitive nature of the crossfader. And what I call this template, and I'm going to release a video on it this week, just a quick video, so people understand how to load it up and get it functioning, is these are punch-in effects. Punch-in effects are really fun. So you can just write a full song that you already know. It's mainly for like drum and bass, like lo-fi drum and bass, that kind of stuff. And then you can just jump around your effects. This is a part of the workflow for me. I needed to have an effects processor where I could sum all my instruments and run them into the octatrack. So right now I have this running, and I can actually, it's doing this stuff to my live instruments too. Like, how cool is that? This is just an effect. This is without it. God, this thing sounds so good. I'm so blown away. Here we go. That is not the patch for that song, that's for sure. Okay, I do want to answer. Thank you, Send Control, for the gift. I appreciate you. You're putting food on the table. Lakes. Okay, so that's how I do it, between tracks on the same device, but with transitioning to a new track on a different device, I just DJ fade over with my Bestie mixer. Yeah, you can, that works just fine. That's the same idea that we're doing here. So when you live loop using a device like the octatrack, the idea is that you're, think of it as DJ decks. Like, this is DJ deck 1. This is DJ deck 1. I hit yes. I record a loop. I'm on DJ Deck 2 now. That's what the loop is. It's Deck 2. Ideally, we'd go to another track that was like just drums, because this has too much melody in it. So I'll get rid of everything that makes sounds like that. I turned this instrument off. You couldn't see that. Bam! We're in. We left the M8. We're in Digitakt world. We switched tempos, went from 170 to 160, transitioned from melody to drums only at the same tempo. No CDJs here, just an octatrack. Piece of cake. Like 404 type filtering. What's gonna go in these two little slots is a tape stop down. So it's gonna go do 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 do, which we'll set up I think now. And then this one's a tape stop up. So rink, it's gonna take you up. And on this side we have pitch modulated effects. So this is a fifth down. It's also a fifth down. This is at half speed, octave down. So you're gonna use the tapes to go up or down and end in a new pitch. It's a really powerful effect in a live setting. So to do it, we're gonna go on track 1 because that's where my beat repeat effect is. So I build a lot of these effects around beat repeats. This template doesn't have tons of beat repeat effects. It's not, you can't see it on these. I sell these, by the way, modbang.com. You can get these and they're magnets. They stick to your machine. So it's cool. They got cutouts. You can write on them. You can see it works because it's coming off already because it's dry erase marker. But this says freeze, stutter, stretch, filter, loop. And that's all this template is on every part is freeze, stutter, stretch, filter, loop. And you can just go to an effect and hit the buttons and jump through freeze, stutter, stretch, and filters. And just jump around from part to part. And then you can go do your 4-bar loop and transition to a new song with the looper. And it's super easy. It's just a 4-bar loop. I'm not gonna do 8-bar anything on here. Just keeping this template as easy and peasy as possible. But now I wanna have this tape stop effect, which means I need LFOs. But I need to find out what LFOs are being used already. Okay, this LFO is being used here. What is it doing? Okay, it's doing bit reduction. So I'm gonna go, we have 2 free LFOs, we should. Yep. So we're gonna do the delay time and we're gonna ramp one up and then we'll set it to sync trig so that it starts the ramp up at the beginning of the, so it has something to latch onto. It's going to be the time of the music. It works well this way. And then we're going to have this one do the same thing, delay time, but ramp down. So the inverse effect, we'll figure out the speed here in a minute because I don't actually remember the speed. For the effect to engage, we're going to go here. We engage it by turning the delay to 0 and see what happens. I actually think I want to be free running on both of them. That's definitely not right. Remember which one is it exactly? Oh. Okay. Let's go back here. I know I have the exact settings that I did in the original project. I'm going to jump over there really quick and get them because this is like the last piece of the puzzle and I don't want to play with it. So it's in HyperFX Beta 2. Let's load it up. How you solve routing for sampling things to the octatrack? Hey, what's up, John? John makes the beats. What's up, Send Control? Okay. Let me see. I think I gotta find that effect really quick, I think. 3232. Okay. What's happening? 24. Can we just like write this down or something? Okay, 24. We don't need to worry about this stuff. I can play with that later. Okay, so the time is 24. We know that. The LFO is 1x. Okay, I guess we go back and play with this now. Times 24, LFO is 1x. There's a reason why I did a ramp one of them and a saw the other. I forget. There's something about the saw that worked a little better. Oh, whoops, I'm in the performance template. Okay, 24 and a ramp and a saw, and we'll get it figured out. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so it's 24. We want this to like kind of go away a little bit. Okay, and then we want a ramp up. We know that, 1x. Leave it free. And then there was one that's a saw. There it is, 1x. And I believe it was free running. And they were 32 for one. Yeah, that's it. Okay, it needs some tweaking, but we'll copy it. We'll do another version of it that does this one. This is the ramp up. Okay, so we want this one to do the inverse. Saw down. No, we want it to go up. Oh yeah, one's up, one's down. Going too fast. Or too much depth. All right, check this shit out. All right. Okay, we gotta make this sync to MIDI first. There we go, we'll sample this. locked it for a reason. Out of here. Enter. Whoa. Whoops. Load. Getting carried away here. I'm not 100% sure what scale I'm playing in, so I'm kind of just guessing. As you can hear, me missing a bunch of these notes. I'm also a guitar player anyway, but I do love playing keys. And I love this synth. But the gist of it, this is kind of like the workflow experience I'm talking about is also about like what's in your vicinity too. Like what's surrounding you. I've made it so that I don't have to go anywhere to reach what I'm after. Everything is within, you know, a little bit of an adjustment. I can go over here and start jamming on the guitar, which sounds super sick too. It's crazy how good it sounds. I could sample this stuff right into the guitar, or right into the Digitakt. Got the mic on here. Guitar and vocals. Yeah. Vocal stuff. Throw a harmony on here or something. Shit, that sounds insane. Oh my god. Just so easy to jump right here. Start playing with some vocal effects, which is just too much fun. Piece of cake, incredibly intuitive. Just a great workflow. Instantly grab vocals, instantly grab guitar, instantly grab polysynths, great sounding synthesizer, great performance effects, nice little summing mixer, anything would do. This just has some perks. This is a little overpriced for me. I'm not going to tell people to go buy this. But these devices lend yourself to songwriting, completing songs. All three of them are complete. You finish your songs in these machines, like from scratch. Go from zero to hero. Bam. And yeah, it turns out really well. It's a good time. I hope everybody was enjoying this presentation and heard me. We'll just call all the wrong notes accidentals. Sponsor me. Somebody commented that they think that LaCroix might be getting upset about this. I don't give a shit. They get upset about anything. Some big old conglomerate. Suck it. Give me the sponsorship money, LaCroix. That's all that matters. We need a review of Delia. Yeah, the review of Delia thus far is that it's bonkers amazing, and I love it. There is a couple things couple quirks. If you send MIDI clock out to the Delia right now, the arpeggio doesn't function from Electron boxes, like it just because Electron is constantly sending out clock. So I can't use the arpeggiator with MIDI clock. And that's a problem for me, honestly. So I've actually been reaching out to them, and they said that's going to be in the next update that they release, that they're going to make it so that you can switch that off. I don't even know what the problem is. Maybe it's a me thing. I've never had trouble with like that with anything else, so it seems like it's the device. But the arpeggiator is really fun. It does have a sequencer, you know, a really simple 16-step sequencer, polyphonic sequencer. My review of it is that it's awesome. And for $2,200, which is the price of the Delia, there are some other competitors out there, like the Novation Summit, which is very similar to it, except for it doesn't have it has rotary encoders that have relative adjustments, which is what this does. This does basically analog encoders with relative adjustments. That's what this does, because it uses motors to turn it for you. The Summit, while FPGA with analog filter, which is very similar workflow, sound quality wise, like you're gonna get great sounds from the Peak, like you would from the Delia. But the Delia has the ladder filter, and the Peak does not have the ladder filter. And the Delia has linked high pass, low pass filter. I don't know what the Summit has in that regard, but the analog ladder filter is the big selling point for me, and the wavetable synthesis. Albeit I will say the wavetables are a little underwhelming compared to like what I can do with a wavetable in the M8 tracker. I find the wavetable in the M8 tracker just out of control. So lower notes on the Delia. When I go into like a wavetable patch, like say we go into a fresh patch, lots of patches. I initially complained to them that they didn't have enough patches, and it turned out I'm just an idiot. Which is often the case, right? Matt's an idiot. It also has a vintage mode. I don't know why there's getting more. Sounds like it's getting some sort of modulation. But if I go into oscillator 3 level, we go to oscillator, turn the level down on these oscillators. We don't hear anything. Oscillator 3. This is a wavetable now. I can adjust the position of the wavetable. Right? Super sick. Wavetables with analog filters. Drive post ladder filter. The only issue I come across is that I can hear aliasing with the wavetables on really low notes. There's a patch in here that sounds just identical to the Grandmother, like, or a Model D, like a Moog Model D. It's just like you hit a note and you're like, damn, that's the sound. That is the sound of the Model D, and the Grandmother nails that sound too. And this thing has it in poly if I want, which I don't want. I don't care about that sound in poly, but it has it. And I was like, it just exploded my brain when my polysynth made the same bass notes as the Model D. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Let's just bear with me while we find this patch. So we go bank, and it should say basses here, but I think I accidentally renamed it. So wait, let me go back to that and fix it, because it says leads when it should say. I don't even know how I copied it, but I want it to say leads. Yeah. What? That's leads? That's leads? D2, no, this is basses. Oh God. Where is it? That's not it, but oh my God, these basses. Big bottom. Is it Fat Mini? No. Listen, does anybody have a Grandmother? The Grandmother by Moog, or a Model D? Listen to this sound. best sound. Just what? Dude, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's the best sounding synth I own. My Prophet 5 was the best sounding synth I own. Not anymore. Now I have this. And the effects in it are out of control. Shimmer reverb in my synth? Hell yeah. I'm all for it. Funny, Danny Toba just says, shout out synth between the Muse and the Delia, and they did both release about the same time. And when I bought the Delia, I had the capital on me to buy the Muse at the time, or I was willing to spend the money. I have the Paybu. If anybody's not familiar with the Paybu credit card from B&H Photo, if you're in the States, I don't know if it matters if you're in the States or not when it comes to B&H Photo, but if you're in the States, B&H Photo offers a credit card, and the way I do it, and I have incredible credit, I'm not even kidding, I have ridiculous credit. You get the Paybu credit card, and you get you don't have to pay taxes, essentially, so the Paybu credit card takes the taxes out of it. $2,200 synthesizer, taxes on that is a lot. So you get this credit card, wipes that. It's 10%, essentially, if you're in Washington State, that is. 10% is a lot. That's a ton. 10% of 2,200 is a ton. On the Moog synth, that's $320. So it saves you, or $350. So it saves you about $220 to buy the synthesizer with that card. And I just set it to auto pay immediately. So I just buy it with the cash, put it on the card, get the discount, grab the synth, and pay it off right away. And then I don't have to, literally just using this card to get discounts. When I was doing this, they did offer the Moog Muse. And I have to say, I did want the Moog Muse. I did want it pretty badly. The Moog Muse has a lot of the same kind of stuff I'm going for. Ladder filter, for one. Has more voices. It's also $1,500 or $1,200 more expensive. It is enormous. It would barely fit on this table. It's so big. It's smaller than the Prophet 5, but it's quite large. And so it does have a workflow. We're talking workflow, right? One of the bonuses, this has bitimbral synthesizer, so I can play 2 patches at once with 2 different MIDI channels. And that's what Electron boxes are. They're multi-timbral synthesizers. This has bitimbral, just 2. Multi would usually mean more than 2. But I don't know if the Muse has bitimbral or multi-timbral or what it does. Probably bitimbral, if anything. But what the Moog Muse does have that I wanted, besides this amazing sound, because it sounds off the chain, it's got more effects than this does, but I'm okay with that. I got analog heat plus effects, plus it has chorus and reverb and delay, and the reverb on here is excellent. But anyway, getting to the point of what it does have that I really wanted for workflow, to enhance my workflow, is that it has all this generative stuff built into its sequencer, and its sequencer is beautiful. It's very attractive. The red lights on the wood, it's just like, you feel like you're in a 1980s beautiful, I don't know, like a bookstore that's somehow been turned into a bookstore owned by a robot. I don't know. It looks super cool. Like, it's just really enticing. But the idea that it just generates these riffs for you, and then you get to mess with the synthesizer with those riffs just running in its sequencer. You can sync that to your other boxes, like a Digitakt, for instance, a sampler, and just sample these synthesized moments in time. And great inspiration box. This does have the sequencer, so I can go. Oh, forget that one. Let's try that again. But it won't run until I... Yeah, this is... So the problem is that I can't get... If I have the MIDI... It's like it's got my MIDI clock in. I can't get the synthesizer to start and stop. Like, it's not... Transport isn't engaging its arpeggiator or its sequencer with my boxes. So that's the problem I'm running into. That is the thing that I wanted from the Moog Muse, was the ability to send clock over and get some generative ideas, sample them, kind of like not use the synthesizer after that. Like, it's working in stages. Like, we have a stage over here where we do guitar vocals. Okay, now we're over here with the synth stage. We grab some sounds. We may revisit these stages, of course, but we like have these main times where we focus on them. Everything ends up in your sampler, which is your arrangement device. And then we move on from there. We use the effects while we're writing our music so that we have an idea of what sounds good with our music. I'm particularly infatuated with my current rendition of effects because it's a lot of fun. Give us motors. 800 is a lot for 2 pedals that brings you into Electron territory. I'm not sure what you mean. What's up, Femto? Jordo's here. I think Kinga's here too. I saw somebody at Kinga. Was there anything particularly that drew you to the Headrush for vocals? Did you consider the Prime or any other MFX? Paul Brightsman. Great question, Paul. Paul, let's answer Paul's question because it's a really excellent question. The reason I was drawn to the Headrush Core for vocal effects is because, honestly, I bought it just for the vocal effects. The idea that it did guitar was a bonus. I had a Boss IR2, which is, as you probably know, since you know what this unit is a amp cab simulator. And Headrush is made by the same people who do Line 6 stuff, so they've been in the digital amplification realm for a really long time. So I trusted them for that, but it had Interis Autotune on it, and Interis is really well known for doing really good pitch correction, real-time pitch correction. And real-time pitch correction isn't just useful for fixing sloppy singing, it's useful for vocoding, which is a big aspect of electronic music, is recording your vocals and having them tuned perfectly. If you put a pitch corrector before your vocoder and set the pitch corrector to a key or to a chromatic zone, just chromatic in general, and then have a harmonizer after that, it's really powerful. So I wanted to have the Interis Autotune. The bigger unit, not having it on the floor, so I don't need it to be larger. It just allows you to have more patches loaded at a time. So I went with this one after listening to a lot of demos, but mostly it was because the vocal suite in it was the best I had seen from any other unit. I've used TC Helicon stuff, I used all the Roland stuff for vocals, I've used the Zoom effects for vocals, I've used the computer for vocals, which does a great job, but it's extremely expensive, and also a real pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie. It's more frustrating to use vocals on my computer to get specific vocal effects like doubling and chorus, and dial them all in. There's just like pre-dialed in on here and they sound pretty nice. And also I like the exploration that happens on the Headrush. Like when you're over here, you're tweaking on the unit, you're getting familiar on it. Like you feel like you're learning a music device. There's all this routing options, it's exploratory. It's pretty fun, kind of like you would do in a device view on your DAW. So really what it is I liked the vocal effects suite, to answer your question. I just need the freaking overbridge for Digitakt II. I need the multi-tracking for the DAW. Yes, I agree. Big time. That's a huge part of what's missing for me and everyone else. And I think some of the updates that'll be coming to the Digitakt II is going to be, probably mono input, because we don't have mono input right now, but or sampling in mono instead of sampling in stereo, because that's kind of a frustration. And overbridge. I don't know what else they'll do. You know, I'm having a hard time using the wavetables on the Digitakt. Like, I don't know what the point of them is. Like, there's not a wavetable machine in it. There's just the sample player machine. So I'm not able to, like, sit on a grain with the wavetables. It's cool to have them, but they don't function in the way that a single cycle waveform functions. But if they make a wavetable machine on the Digitakt that does that, man, that would be really cool. Sounds huge. Model D's nuts. Only Blake. Yeah, you can see all the modulation happening in front of you, and you can switch patches and have all the knobs in the right places. That's exactly what's going. That's why I liked the idea of the Muse, and also the Delia. The Delia is really fun. Nice shirt. Yeah, Brother vs. Robot. Yeah, support local. Support your hardware electronic music artists. That's where it's at. What is this keyboard? Oh, you must have meant this. I'm going backwards in chat right now, so I'm like looking for any questions that are relevant to the topic of workflow. System 8, not a fan of the System 8 Zozilla. Really reminds me of when I was a kid, thinking of Minecraft Redstone circuits kept me up at night. Let's see, there seems to be like a pretty thick conversation going on here between Danny Tobias. Curious about how the routing to the inputs are set up. Like if everything goes through a mixer, it's just a matter of swapping cables directly. So the current setup that I have here, this is a good question. The current setup that we have here, I'll do the big thing so you can see all the devices at once, is Digitakt goes into the octatrack for performance effects, right? M8 is actually going into the Key Largo, and that's going into the Key Largo's output is all going into the Digitakt, because this is my centerpiece. This is my second centerpiece, but it is secondary to my Digitakt centerpiece. The Digitakt is the centerpiece for me. I've chosen a device and said, this is where I do most of my production, right? So these two kind of, they battle with each other, who's the boss, but they both get the same functionality here. Everything is routed into my Digitakt, including the mate. So when I want to hear the mate, the Digitakt needs to be receiving audio. What I do have is a send effect. That's what this big old cable is right here. I have the send for my synthesizers here going into my mate, but I don't have monitoring on the mate. So I monitor here, but I send the audio, anything I want. I can send the Digitakt in here, vocals, they can come in here. Everything can be sent in here, but everything is always going in here. You get what I'm saying? So I have the option of grabbing some audio with the send whenever I want from the Largo into the mate, but I also, and I could unplug this and plug it into the Deluge if I want, but I don't have to go through that process with the Digitakt. It's just always routed into the Digitakt. Everything is always going into the octatrack. And then here, what do I have here? That's going into A and B. This is what? Oh, this is the Deluge right now. And this is the Deluge doing wavetables, which again, the wavetables on here are amazing. Wavetables on here are amazing. Wavetables on here, I don't know quite the point of them. And the wavetables on here have a little bit of aliasing at the end. But as you can see, we have a lot of wavetabling happening here. And this is a patch that I made on the Deluge. This sounds sick. What's our tempo? So this is me doing this with the Deluge now. I didn't even have it doing MIDI at that point. I was literally just set this tempo to the same tempo and just waited 1, 2, 3, hit play. So I could sync the effects with the Deluge. Because right now there's no MIDI running into the Deluge, but the Deluge is running into the octatrack. So I do need to, and I have the port here, I need to use my MIDI through on my mate to go over to my Deluge so that everything can sync, and then I can do some really fun workflow stuff here. Ever considered the Moog Workstat just as an external ladder filter? I have some Moog stuff with the ladder filter in it. I don't want an external filter, to be honest. It just seems like a lot of work. A lot more work than I want it to be. Replying to my endeavors for Chase Bliss pedals. Yeah, and like one of the cool things that the guitar box that I have does is that it does have a send and return loop for incorporating all of your other pedals. So none of my pedals are out of the loop. Like I can still use them on my vocals and on my guitar. It's so cool to have that be integrated into one unit. So it's like workflow, workflow, workflow. That's like all I think about is how can I make this as easy as possible. And I hope that today's stream demonstrates just how you can connect everything so that you can perform on all these machines and incorporate so many different ideas into your workflow when you're away from your computer, which is expensive and really cool. Yo, what's up? Melbourne Instruments in the house. Check it out, Melbourne. Sounds amazing. I love your synthesizers, and I've been showing it off all day, and I believe the caps, so you can get replacement caps for the, for the Melbourne Delia, whatever. And so I have the mint green caps. They're supposed to arrive today. I'm very excited to replace all the red caps with the mint green caps. But huge fan of the synthesizer. Highly recommend it. Don't have any sort of affiliate links or anything for it, but if you're interested in getting yourself a nice polysynth at a good size with some great sound capability, I think the Delia is great. I bought the Delia. No one sent this to me. This is mine. I'm glad Melbourne's here. Thank you. Wish they had sent me one, but I paid for this one, and I'm happy I did. I think it was a good purchase, and I think the workflow is fantastic. So glad to support this company, and I think it's going to really up my game, personally. And I do have a thing, maybe Delion's here. I can sometimes hear like a little bit of noise on the right side. Yeah, man, big fan. Sounds so good. I'm still exploring the workflow. I've accidentally renamed my leads, my bass bank as leads. Somehow I didn't know you could copy and paste folder names, but apparently you can. And I did that. So, thank you, Melbourne. I appreciate that. You love the work. You saying that it's better than the Prophet really sells me on it. Okay, that's like, I can't say that it's better than the Prophet for making music on my desk. We can't compare it's because the Prophet is just a replica of a 1970s, the very first, commercial polysynth that you could buy. And it's very extremely limited. It sounds amazing. It's enormous. It weighs a ton. It sits in the corner. I never touch it. It's just like, it's beautiful. I made a sample pack. If you're interested, I have a sample pack of multi-samples on my Patreon that you can use on your octatrack, Digitakt, or M8 tracker. And it's awesome, and I've used it to make music, but it's not as inspiring. It's inspiring to look at. This is a much more 2024 synthesizer. This is the kind of, you're going to get work done. I'm going to make a new patch. I'm going to play with this new morphing feature where I can morph, you know, between patches and stuff like that in real time. Like, this is a sound design machine. You don't sound design on the Prophet 5. Like, all the sounds have already been designed on it. It's like, it's done. It's so basic. So that's what I mean by it's better, because I think it's kind of sacrilege for me to say that in a way, because I'm such a fan of the Prophet 5, but it's better for me to make music with. There's a factory of wavetables full that work on 64 slice grid mode, and some, but not all, other wavetables work. Just need tuning. Yeah, oh, you're talking about the wavetables on Digitakt II. Yes, wavetables on Digitakt. We were just talking about that. So if I go to, like, here, I'm gonna blank. Let's just go to this pattern. There's nothing here. Let's switch this over to a wavetable. Oscillators, wavetables. What's cool? All right, let's load this. That seems like it has a lot of harmonics in it. And you're saying to load it into a grid and to set it to 64 and then what? Loop it? Forward looping? This is... I guess that does kind of work. I mean, that is the best results I've gotten with the wavetable so far. Who was that? Human Program? Human Program. That was a really good tip. Because I was wondering what was the best way to use the wavetables, and I've just like... Yeah, it's just... 64 is, I guess, pretty good when it comes to how small these wavetables are. They're you know, they're only like a half second long. So 64 is pretty close. Make the grid longer. Have a modulator move that wavetable position. So that's the slice select knob. How long of wavetables can you load in the Delia, Melbourne, since you're hanging out? Yeah. We're gonna... Wait a second, let's copy this and go... Let's go pattern 2 and paste this sound. Wavetables. Wow, I got carried away for like 30 minutes playing with the wavetable. Thick. Cool. Cheers to Human Program for pointing out, I'm ashamed of myself for not even thinking of it, for pointing out, putting the wavetables into grid mode and setting it to 64 steps. And of course, setting it to cycle. That's kind of a given. But cheers to Human Program for that one. Nice. And cheers to Melbourne Instruments for popping in the stream. We love the Delia. And the Nina, which I have here. I didn't get to tell you, Delia. I do have the Nina here as well, but it's The Nina is not for me as much as I thought it was. The Delia is, because the Delia has keys. And I, as bad of a keys player as I am, love pressing keys on keyboards. Big part of me, big part of my workflow is going over and doing chords. I do happen to know enough music theory, because I went to school for music, that I can put chords together. So I can be like, I'm going to make a 13th or 9th or 11th and stuff like that and do an inversion. And I can do that, and I can go from chord to chord and sample that into my device. And that's why keyboards are important for me in my workflow. What's the vocals device? That is the Headrush Core. This guy right here. This does vocals. See the visual with this? Yeah, this is the vocal processor. Delia and Prophet are apples and oranges. Absolutely. Not the same at all. The only reason why there's even a discussion about the Delia and the Prophet is strictly because I happen to own them both. Otherwise, there's no reason to talk about them together, other than they're both synthesizers with keyboards. And they both sound amazing. Yeah. Let me see. This chat is moving slower than this chat. Oh, what's the template that I'm on? Oh my god, there's so much more chat here. Hi-Fi, what's funny is that I don't know if EZBOT knows how much fun we have in the chat while he just jams. Well, I'm glad. People are having fun. I guess I was looking at the wrong chat or something. Like the one that I'm looking at is moving really slow. It doesn't have this whole conversation you guys are having. Hi-Fi, which is Harry. Hi-Fi is having a conversation with Hans Volt. I want to see what Hans Volt had to say. There's something happening. Hopefully not some sort of weird trauma, but... I need to get back on Twitch, folks. I need to get back on Twitch. Because right now we're just on YouTube, and I'd love to get the Twitch audience up in here chatting. Because you'd be able to see them in the corner and be able to conversate with the Twitch and the YouTube audience, which would be useful. But I think I've discussed my point. So basically, to sum up what the whole discussion was about your workflow and how it's worth the investment, it's worth the time, and I don't want people to think that their gear acquisition syndrome is a real thing, because it's not. I mean, it is a real thing that you are buying gear because you're excited about music stuff, but that's just because you have the means to execute that action. You're able to buy that piece of gear because you want to, but you're still going to go through the same process that we all go through on the computer, with a guitar, with an instrument. It's all the same thing. We're searching for the thing that we just get. We're searching for the thing that gets us, and it takes skill and experience to understand what those devices are and how to recognize if it's good for you. That's a skill that you learn and you earn through like the effort and energy that you put into your gear. And some, it's hard, like it can be really expensive to do that, but that's how music is expensive. And most of the gear that gets acquired through in our studios, most of the gear that gets acquired in our studios happens over a long span of time. So finding that your workflow takes a long time. It really does. And honestly, you only need one device to do it all. You don't need a polysynth and a vocal processor and a guitar amplifier and a performance mixer and this and that and these effects units. You could just get a single device and have your workflow be just this device. But you have to learn that. Right? And you learn that by buying, borrowing, and visiting synth shops. That's how you do it. You learn what you like because you can't know just by watching YouTube videos and listening to a YouTuber. The YouTubers are lying to you. Like, it's a fact. When I am talking about a piece of gear, I personally, how I like to function on this particular channel with me, I only demonstrate things that I am using on a personal level. I can only show you how to use them because I know how to use them because I'm using them. Like, I'm not taking some random piece of equipment and demonstrating it here because, but I would, like, I don't have a problem sharing how to use a device, But to sit here and like review and do that whole process, like that's about, you know, earning kudos with the company and trying to make a couple of bucks because it's a job. But so the best thing you can do is actually just buy them. That's really like, yeah, watch the YouTube videos, watch the demonstrations, listen to it carefully, and try and eke the most out of whatever workflow they have on their that they do in their demonstration. But if you have a synth shop around, go to the shop and try it out. See how it feels. This is a really important part of this. And also figure out what kind of sounds you're after. What sort of synthesis are you interested in? Do you want wavetables? Well, find a wavetable synth. You know, stick with the Blofelds, stick with the Nina, stick with what's that beetle crab company? I forget what they are. You know, if you want the analog synths, like the pure, strictly analog stuff, polysynths, you're gonna want the Profits, stuff like that. You want a good drum machine with a fun workflow? Get yourself a Digitakt. You want handheld experience? You know, get yourself a Mate. If you want the legit old school tracker experience with sampling and synthesizers built into it, good sounding polysynths, get your Polyend Tracker Plus. If you're a guitar player, singer songwriter, and you just need accompaniment, get a Deluge. This is the winner for that. Like, so, but you're not going to know all that. And you can't take my word for it because I don't know you. You know, I just know me. So no matter what you hear, it's still going to be up to you to buy this stuff and learn this stuff. And then hopefully keep it. But if not, buy it, learn it, sell it to the next guy. They get a little bit of a discount. They get to learn it and try it. And I think that's just the way it's always going to be. There's no way around it. So I think we've got to cut ourselves a break, let ourselves buy what we want to buy, use it, trade it, sell it. In fact, in my Discord, I have a channel about just for buy, sell, trade. And trading is my favorite thing. I've traded so much gear. It's so good to have my money go into my music production and then just trade it out to other people and try it out so I can learn that workflow. Learn this workflow. Do I like this? Do I need keys? Well, I learned recently. I love the sound of Melbourne Instruments Nina. Love it. I think it's great sounding. Love the stuff that it does, the cool features. Don't need desktop synths. They're not for me. I learned that recently because I never owned a desktop synth. I have only had keyboard synthesizers ever. And so I tried the Nina for the first time trying a desktop synth, and I learned that workflow sucks for me. I need the expression of a keyboard. So cool. Another thing I learned recently, I bought the Headrush Core that's got the vocal suites and the guitar amplifier, and I want to play guitar. I have a bunch of guitar pedals, tons of guitar pedals in here because I've been a guitar player for years. Tons of vocal effects because I've been a singer for years. And I learned that I don't want all this shit. I just don't want all the things. I don't want all the pedals and all that stuff. I'm happy with the suite of effects that a single box gives me if it means that I'm going to get work done, if it means that I'm going to actually use my voice and my guitar. So I learned that. It's a new part of my workflow is that I don't need a bunch of different guitar pedals anymore. I just use the one and capture my guitar. This is all stuff you could never know this without doing the work, without putting the money in, you know, without trying it, watching reviews, watching tutorials. All of that's so important, and I think that it's great, and I love doing it. It's my favorite thing in the world. But yeah, there's so much to talk about with workflow, and it's one of my favorite things to discuss. And there's also just working within the means of the gear that you already own. You know what I mean? Like, say you don't have the ability you're in a remote area. You've acquired some music equipment, too much music equipment sometimes, maybe, right? Or you might feel like it's too much. It's overwhelming you because it's too much to learn. There's no one there to teach you or something. That's where somebody like me can help you because I can discuss this with you. I love working on setups, getting them working together, finding a use case for this piece of gear, something like that. So that's if you're interested in that. Little ad from my little shameless self-promotion. EZBOT.live for booking live lessons with me, or you can join the lessons tier on my Patreon, become a patron, and you can do the weekly meetup and a private lesson. I think it's super fun. We can discuss all this kind of stuff. But that being said, that's what this whole thing is about. I found some dope workflows for me, and I'm not feeling the urge to get other things because my goals are being met. My needs are being met by the gear that I've found. And I think you need to go out and do the same. Find what meets your needs. And if something doesn't meet them, move on. Trade it, sell it, get something new, or just put it in the corner. I don't know. Do whatever you got to do. But I think it's important to find that workflow and find the pieces that work together. So with that being said, I'm going to let everybody go. My name's Matthew, aka EZBOT. If you enjoy these streams, you can leave a nice comment and put a thumbs up down below. You can visit patreon.com/EZBOT, which is where you'll find all of these templates, including the all-new HyperFX template, which I'll play for a second before we completely leave out of the stream. And it will be available in 1.0 with full documentation on how to use it tonight, before midnight for sure, tonight, probably in a couple hours, so I'll have that ready. And it'll be available on coffee.com/EZBOT. But yeah, if you just want to support this channel, you can go ahead and visit patreon.com. That's where, that's what funds this channel to go on. So these streams are brought to you by Patreon. And I'm very grateful for all the supporters. Thank you very much. I'm happy to help you with any questions you have. If you want to join the Patreon, become a patron, you'll have access to lots of rewards of stuff that I've put tons of time and energy into. Everything I do goes on Patreon so everyone can use it, including all of these octatrack templates, presets that I make here. Anyway, just a little ad. I love sharing. I do it via Patreon. That's how I do it. So love to hang out, available for lessons. But besides that, I'll see y'all next week, if not this coming Friday, for another live stream, more music production, and more template discussion. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. I'll catch you later.